Momentum doesn't care about you. It'll run your life. It can ruin your life. It will help you progress forward, or believe you me, it'll help you regress backwards. Momentum, for a lot of people, they're thinking scientific. In my nearly 60 decades on this planet, this is what I know about momentum. It's powerful. Momentum is personal. It's very personal. And momentum is a choice. You choose every single day, with every decision. Momentum can ruin relationships or build. Momentum can start in a little ego. I'll call it ego edging God out. Every time that I have been in indecision, decisions have been made for me and around me. And that isn't always a good thing. And if you let your ego get in front of you, the blame game happens. But it starts with clarity. When you have crystal clarity, when everything that you're thinking in your head aligns, you create some momentum. It builds confidence. It also builds action. Let's talk a little bit about some negative momentum. Yes, I became Mrs. Minnesota, and there was some momentum involved. Who in their right mind would want to do that? Apparently, I would. So it started something like this. I had been in the Miss Minnesota program because I was a broke college student, and I could sing, and it was a way to make some scholarship money. I never won. Always a bridesmaid, never the bride. Had the opportunity to make some great scholarship money, get some singing gigs, build a little clarity around what I wanted to do in college and what I wanted to be when I grow up. I didn't start out or end up where I wanted to be. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I am not a veterinarian, I will tell you, but I do love dogs. What happened from that is I started to create some momentum in my life. I ran for Mrs. Minnesota, and let's just say it was one of these. So like any good person would do, I did it again, right? Dust yourself off and get back up there and do it again. I learned a few things. I learned a few things about myself. And I did it again. And I made the top 10, but I didn't win. So here we are just chalking up the L's, right? That's loser for those of you that don't know. Because if you don't win, you, in essence, lost. So, 3 times. We're going to learn a little something. We're going to get clear. We're a little more confident, or a little dumber, whichever you choose. But we're going to take action and move forward. So we did it again. Got up to the line there and heard my name called, Kelly Jahner-Byrne, and top 10, super. Now we're up, down to the wire. It's getting good now. My name was not called. 3 times was not a charm. 3 times was, do it with me, loser. So, I had to do it one more time. I thought, kind of getting the rhythm here, and maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. So, in true Minnesota girl fashion, I was loading my snowmobile onto my snowmobile trailer, and I slipped and I went click, and I broke my wrist 6 weeks before the program. Let's just say that wasn't momentum forward. I was in a cast from here to here for a broken wrist. We could be really spiraling. Kept going, ended up as 3rd runner-up. Another loser. I'm like, you know what? I am a corporate girl. I'm clear. That was great. I did it because I wanted to make some money for my charity, for my nonprofit, and thought that would be a great idea. And not all great ideas are great ideas. You can probably relate to some of that. So, in true form, my lovely husband said in passing, well, Imagine what you could do if you had two good arms. Ooh, I think I hate you. So something flipped. I flipped the script. I stopped being what other people wanted. I showed up in the black gown. I liked it. I showed up as me. I talked about volunteer work. I talked about what I was passionate about. I talked about what I was authentically doing and not what the world wanted me to do. And that created momentum. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Minnesota 2001 is Kelly Jahner-Byrne, and it was amazing. Thank you. I was the September 11th Mrs. Minnesota. I was in momentum, and this is why. I decided what I was going to do after the sparkles were on my head. I was going to raise money. I was going to travel. I was going to do the thing that I can do, and that's get people to give me money for a good cause. And we did. We raised almost $8 million that year. My husband was a firefighter, volunteer in our community. What was going on then? We were coming together. We were creating momentum in a good way from something that was tragic. There will always be tragedy in the world. And where there is no clarity, you have chaos. Let me take you over to ego. That little edging and got out concept. When you let your ego get the best of you, your clarity drips out of your head. Have you ever noticed that? Confidence takes a vacation. And action, sometimes action is aggressive. Wrong kind. Check your ego. I've learned that when I check my ego, my momentum goes in a forward direction rather than a backward direction. That Mrs. Minnesota experience for me was a forward direction. It was a lesson in tenacity for life. When I was Mrs. Minnesota, I wasn't yet a mom. I was a stepmom at that point. So when my son tells me, oh, it's hard. He doesn't really say it like that. He's got a much deeper voice. Oh, it's hard. I can tell him, I'm from Minnesota and I walked uphill both ways to school. In Duluth, in February, when it was freezing. I can go back to those losses and find the nuggets of clarity, build the confidence, take action, and use those stories, because it's stories that make us human. It's stories that propel us forward. And that, my friends, is where you start to create momentum. But momentum begins with a decision. Because indecision is a decision. Doing nothing is a decision. But some people will hide behind, well, I've got to think about it. It's Minnesota nice. Let me think about it. What do you need to think about? Do you know what you need to think about? Saying no. That's my decision. No, I'm going to stop the momentum going forward. I'm going to live in my decision of no, and I'm going to change direction. Because that, my friends, is what we can do with momentum. If something is going the way we don't want it to go, take a moment. The very core word of momentum. Take a moment. Get clarity. Build your confidence, because when you know what your next best step is, you don't need to know the whole staircase. You just need the first step, the first rung on the ladder. When you do that, you can create momentum forward where you want it to go. Indecision, my friends, is a decision. You can move forward, you can move backward. You can change your mind. You can change the direction of where you're going. Now, I'm never competing for any kind of tiara again. And the moral of that story is I worked so hard to get it, and I never wore it. There are very few photos of me with a tiara on my head. It's just not my speed. It sat on a podium every time I spoke, all over the state and all over the nation. But what I spoke on was why it was important to finish it. And that momentum, when matched with timing, creates some magic. You will have to decide. You will have to decide many things in your life. But just know that if you don't decide, indecision is a decision, and it will create momentum whether you like it or not. So here's my question to you. Who do you need to call to repair a relationship? What do you need to get clear on in your life? What do you need a little more confidence in your life? What do you need to take action on in your life? Because whether you move it forward or you don't, momentum is always in play. It's a rhythm. It's always moving. And it's your job. Start with a decision. Create positive momentum. Be crystal clear. Be confident. There's only one you in this world. Take action. Make the decision and create momentum. It only takes a moment.